I was 8 months pregnant when I saw the post. He didn't tell me he was writing it. Didn't warn me he'd put our entire relationship on trial in front of strangers. Just uploaded it to Reddit while I was asleep in the next room. 43,000 people read his doubts about whether our baby was his. While I was carrying his child. While wearing his ring. While planning our wedding for next month. My name is Lauren. I'm 31, a high school English teacher in Austin, and I'd been with Marcus for 4 years. We met at a friend's barbecue, one of those easy connections that felt inevitable from the first conversation. He was a software engineer, thoughtful and steady, the kind of person who remembered small details and showed up when he said he would. Or so I thought. We got engaged after 3 years. Nothing extravagant, he proposed on a weekend trip to Fredericksburg, at sunset on the porch of a bed and breakfast, with a vintage sapphire ring that had belonged to his grandmother. It felt perfect. He felt perfect. The pregnancy wasn't planned, but it wasn't unwelcome either. We'd talked about kids, about timelines, about the life we wanted to build. When I saw those 2 lines on the test, I was nervous but excited. We were engaged, stable, ready enough. Marcus had been quiet when I told him. Not upset, just processing. He held me and said all the right things, we'll figure it out together and I'm here, I promise, but something shifted in his eyes that I couldn't quite name. Over the next few weeks, that shift became a distance. He worked later. Responded slower. Started spending more time on his phone, scrolling through forums and subreddits, disappearing into comment sections about relationships and parenting and paternity fraud. Just researching, he'd say when I asked. Want to be prepared. I believed him because I wanted to. Because we were 8 weeks from the wedding and 12 weeks from becoming parents, and believing him was easier than acknowledging what my gut already knew. Then came the post. I woke up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom. 3rd trimester meant my bladder had the capacity of a shot glass, and saw the glow of his laptop on the kitchen table. He'd left it open. Left himself logged in. The title made my blood stop. I want her to prove her loyalty before the wedding with a paternity test. I read it 3 times before my brain would accept the words were real. The post was detailed. Clinical. He'd laid out our entire relationship like evidence in a case, how we met, how long we'd been together, when I got pregnant, why he had concerns. The concerns, apparently, were that I'd been distant lately. That I'd started working out more before I got pregnant. That I'd bought new clothes. That I had a male coworker who texted me occasionally about lesson plans and department meetings. He'd turned my 3rd trimester exhaustion into emotional withdrawal. My attempt to stay healthy into suspicious behavior. My work friendship into evidence of an affair. And he'd asked 43,000 strangers whether he was justified in demanding a paternity test before the wedding. The comments were a war zone. Half the replies called him smart for protecting himself. Told him stories about men who'd raised kids that weren't theirs, about women who lied, about the importance of being sure. The other half called him paranoid. Asked what kind of man does this to his pregnant fiancé. Pointed out that if he didn't trust me, he shouldn't be marrying me. But Marcus had responded to dozens of comments, defending himself, clarifying details, painting me as suspicious without ever using my name. She gets defensive when I ask about her day. She's been more private with her phone lately. She says she's tired all the time, but she has energy for her friends. I was 8 months pregnant. Of course I was tired. Of course I was private. He'd been treating me like a suspect for months, watching me like I was waiting to betray him. I sat there in the dark, reading his words, watching him dissect our relationship for strangers who would never meet me, never know me, never understand that the woman he was describing was a fiction born from his insecurity. And then I saw the comment that made my hands shake. Someone had asked, "Have you talked to her about this?" Marcus had replied, "Not directly. I don't want to accuse her without proof. But I'm gathering information first. Watching her patterns. If she's hiding something, she'll slip eventually. He was investigating me. Watching me. Waiting for me to slip. While I taught teenagers about literary analysis and came home to make dinner and rubbed my swollen feet and tried to stay awake long enough to discuss wedding seating charts. I closed the laptop carefully. Stood up. Walked to the bedroom where Marcus was sleeping peacefully, one arm stretched across my empty side of the bed. I looked at him for a long time. At the man I'd agreed to marry. The father of the child currently using my ribs as a soccer goal. The person who was supposed to be my partner, my safe place, my certainty in an uncertain world. And I felt something inside me go very, very cold. I didn't wake him. Didn't scream or cry or demand answers. I just went back to bed and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. In the morning, Marcus was cheerful. Made coffee, kissed my forehead, asked how I slept. Fine, I said. Baby keeping you up? Something like that. He smiled, oblivious, and headed to work. I called in sick. Then I called my sister, Diane. I need you to come over, I said. And bring your laptop. She heard something in my voice because she didn't ask questions. Just said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. When she arrived, I showed her the post. She read in silence, her face progressing from confused to horrified to furious in the span of 3 minutes. Lauren. What the fuck? I know. He posted this? About you? While you're pregnant with his baby? Yes. And he hasn't said a word to you? Not one. She scrolled through the comments, her jaw tightening. He's been responding to these people for hours. Hours. Talking about you like you're a stranger he's investigating. I know. What are you going to do? I took a breath. I'm going to give him exactly what he asked for. I scheduled the paternity test for the following Tuesday. Marcus didn't know yet. I wanted everything arranged first, every detail locked in, so when I finally told him, there would be no room for negotiation or backtracking. I chose a lab across town, one that specialized in prenatal paternity testing. Non-invasive, just a blood draw from me and a cheek swab from him. Results in 7 to 10 business days. I paid for it myself. Kept the receipt. Then I called our wedding planner. Hi, Jennifer. I need to talk about postponement options. Her voice shifted immediately to soothing professional concern. Oh no. Is everything okay? Not really. But I need to understand what our options are if we need to delay. What we'd lose, what we could reschedule, what's non-refundable. She walked me through it. The venue was paid in full, non-refundable, but could be rescheduled within the year for a fee. The caterer required 60 days' notice. The photographer was flexible. The florist would keep our deposit but couldn't guarantee the same arrangements for a different date. I took notes on everything. Lauren, can I ask what's going on? You're one of my most organized brides. This doesn't seem like you. I'm just being careful, I said. Making sure I understand all my options. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table and made a list. Joint assets, none. We'd kept our finances separate, planning to merge them after the wedding. Shared property, the apartment lease was in my name. Marcus had moved in 2 years ago. Wedding costs, I'd paid for my dress, the invitations, and half the venue. He'd paid for the photographer and his suit. Everything else was split or covered by our families. I wasn't trapped. I'd been careful without realizing it, maintaining independence even while planning a future together. That night, when Marcus came home, I was sitting on the couch with my laptop. Hey, babe. He kissed the top of my head. How are you feeling? Better. I actually wanted to talk to you about something. He sat down next to me, casual. What's up? I scheduled a paternity test. His entire body went rigid. What? A paternity test. For the baby. I made an appointment for Tuesday at 2. You'll need to come with me. Lauren, I don't. Why would you? I found your post, Marcus. The color drained from his face. I saw what you wrote. What you've been thinking. How you've been watching me, waiting for me to slip. I kept my voice level, almost clinical. So I'm giving you what you want. Proof. Evidence. Whatever you need to stop investigating your own fiancé. Lauren, listen. No. You listen. You've spent months treating me like a suspect. Analyzing my behavior. Documenting my patterns. Asking strangers on the internet whether I'm trustworthy instead of asking me directly. I met his eyes. So now you don't have to wonder. We'll get the test. You'll have your proof. And then we'll see where we stand. I wasn't going to actually ask you to do that. The post was just. I was venting. I was anxious. You responded to comments for 3 hours, Marcus. You defended your position. You gave details about our relationship to thousands of strangers. That's not venting. That's building a case. He ran his hands through his hair, frantic. I was scared, okay? Everything's happening so fast, and I just needed to process. You needed to process whether your pregnant fiancé was cheating on you? Whether the baby you helped create is actually yours? My voice finally cracked. I'm 8 months pregnant, Marcus. I can barely tie my shoes. I fall asleep at 7:30 every night. When exactly do you think I had time to conduct this elaborate affair you've invented? I know it sounds crazy. It doesn't sound crazy. It sounds like you don't trust me. Like you never have. That's not true. Then explain the post. Explain why you've been watching me like I'm a criminal. Explain why strangers on the internet know more about your doubts than I do. He couldn't. He just sat there, opening and closing his mouth, searching for words that wouldn't come. Tuesday at 2, I repeated. The appointment's already scheduled. If you don't show up, I'll know everything I need to know. I stood up and walked to the bedroom, closed the door, and finally let myself cry. He didn't follow me. The next few days were suffocating. Marcus tried to apologize, to explain, to backtrack. He deleted the post. Told me he'd been irrational, that pregnancy had made him paranoid, that he loved me and trusted me and couldn't believe he'd let his anxiety spiral like that. But he never said he didn't want the paternity test. He never said, of course the baby's mine, we don't need to do this. He just accepted the appointment like a guilty man accepting his sentence. On Tuesday, we drove to the lab in silence. The waiting room was sterile and awkward, filled with other couples in various states of visible tension. A teenager with her mother. A woman alone, staring at her phone. A man who wouldn't look at the woman sitting next to him. We fit right in. They called us back separately. Drew my blood first, then swabbed Marcus's cheek. The technician was professionally neutral, explaining the process without judgment, treating us like any other couple seeking genetic confirmation. It took 12 minutes total. 12 minutes to reduce 4 years of relationship to a clinical procedure. Results in 7 to 10 business days, the technician said. We'll email them to both of you. In the car, Marcus tried again. Lauren, I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. Do you? I kept my eyes on the road. Because you still haven't explained why. Why you doubted me. Why you believed I was capable of that. I don't have a good reason. Try anyway. He was quiet for a long time. Then, my dad cheated on my mom. When I was 12. She didn't find out for 2 years. And when she did, she realized my little sister might not be his. I'd known about the cheating. He'd mentioned it once, years ago, in passing. But never this part. Is she? I asked quietly. Yeah. The test came back positive. But those 2 years before they knew, my mom said she kept looking at my sister and wondering. Kept analyzing every feature, every mannerism, trying to see the truth in her face. He exhaled shakily. I swore I'd never be in that position. That I'd never have to wonder. So you decided to wonder about me instead. It wasn't logical. I know that. You're right. It wasn't. Because I'm not your father. And you're not your mother. And our situation is nothing like theirs. I pulled into our parking lot and turned off the engine. But you made me pay for his mistakes anyway. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo it. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you trusted strangers on the internet more than you trusted me. I got out of the car. That night, I started packing. Not everything. Just enough for a few weeks. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, the pregnancy books I'd been reading. Marcus found me folding maternity jeans into a suitcase. What are you doing? I'm going to stay with Diane for a while. Lauren, please. Don't leave. We can work through this. Can we? Because from where I'm standing, we just spent the afternoon getting a paternity test because you couldn't trust me enough to believe the baby is yours. That's not something you work through in a few days. So what, you're just leaving? Calling off the wedding? I'm not calling anything off yet. I'm creating space. For both of us. I zipped the suitcase. When the results come back, we'll talk. Really talk. About whether this is something we can recover from. You know what the results are going to say. Do I? Because you clearly didn't. That landed like I meant it to. I'll be at Diane's, I said. You can text me if you need something. But I need time, Marcus. Time to figure out if I can marry someone who sees me this way. I left that night. Diane's guest room became my temporary home. She didn't push me to talk, just made sure I ate and rested and had space to process. The waiting was excruciating. 7 to 10 business days felt like 7 to 10 years. Marcus texted every day. Apologizing. Explaining. Begging me to come home. I responded politely but distantly. I wasn't ready to forgive. Wasn't sure if I ever would be. On day 9, the email arrived. I was sitting on Diane's couch, grading essays, when my phone chimed. Subject, paternity test results, case hashtag PT789456. My hands shook as I opened it. The technical jargon blurred together until I found the conclusion. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Marcus Chen cannot be excluded as the biological father. I read it 3 times. Then I forwarded it to Marcus without comment. He called immediately. I didn't answer. He texted, Lauren, please. I know I was wrong. I know the baby's yours, ours. Please let me see you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, tomorrow. 2 p.m., the coffee shop on 5th Street. Marcus was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of him. Decaf latte for me, he'd remembered. He stood when he saw me, uncertain, like he didn't know if he was allowed to hug me. He wasn't. I sat down across from him and placed my phone on the table, the email still open. 99.99%, I said. In case you needed it in writing. Lauren. Do you know what that number means, Marcus? It means you were wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. About me. About us. About everything you convinced yourself was true. I know. Do you? Because I don't think you understand what you've done. What you've broken. I kept my voice steady, but my hands were shaking. I would have given you everything. My trust, my loyalty, my whole life. I was growing your child inside my body while you were online telling strangers I might be a liar. He looked down at his coffee. I hate myself for it. That's not enough. His head snapped up. What do you want me to say? I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you let me. I don't want you to spend your life making it up to me. I want to know why I should trust you not to do this again. I leaned forward. What happens the next time you're scared? The next time something in your past gets triggered? Do I have to prove myself all over again? Do our kids have to grow up watching you doubt their mother? No. Never. I swear. Your swears don't mean anything right now, Marcus. You swore to love and cherish me when you proposed. You swore we were solid. And then you spent months building a case against me in your head. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy is a start. But it's not a solution. Not for this. I pulled out my own phone and opened a document I'd been working on for days. I've been thinking a lot about what it would take for me to even consider moving forward. And I made a list. I slid the phone across the table. He read in silence, his expression shifting from hope to resignation. The list read: 1. Individual therapy for Marcus. Weekly. Non-negotiable. Focused on trust issues and family trauma. 2. Couples counseling. Twice a month minimum. We don't set a wedding date until a therapist agrees we're ready. 3. Full transparency about the post. Marcus writes an update to the Reddit thread explaining the results and his mistakes. No excuses. Just accountability. 4. Marcus moves out of the apartment. Not because I'm punishing him, but because I need space to decide if I want this marriage. He can visit, but he doesn't live there until I'm sure. 5. Wedding postponed indefinitely. We tell our families the truth, not a vague "we need more time," but the actual truth about what happened. 6. If we do eventually marry, prenup. Not about money, about establishing that I won't spend our marriage proving myself. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. You've really thought about this. I've had 9 days to think about nothing else. These terms, they're harsh. They're fair. You violated my trust in the deepest way possible. If you want it back, you earn it. Slowly. With actions, not words. He sat back, processing. And if I agree to all of this? Then we try. Slowly. Carefully. With no guarantees. And if I don't? Then we co-parent. Civilly. But the engagement is over. The silence stretched between us. Finally, he said, I'll do it. All of it. Whatever it takes. I need you to mean that. I do. He reached across the table, then stopped, his hand hovering between us. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why are you giving me this chance? After everything I did, why not just walk away? I'd asked myself that question 100 times. Because part of me still loves you, I said quietly. Or loves who I thought you were. And because our baby deserves parents who at least tried to make it work before giving up. I paused. But mostly because I need to know I gave this every possible chance. So that if it doesn't work out, I never wonder if I quit too soon. He nodded slowly. That's fair. One more thing. I met his eyes. If you ever doubt me like this again, if you ever investigate me or question my loyalty or make me prove myself, I'm gone. Immediately. No second chances. No explanations. Just done. Do you understand? Yes. Say it. If I ever doubt you like this again, you're gone. No second chances. Good. We sat there for another moment, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. Then I stood. I'll text you the name of my therapist. She can recommend someone for you, and someone for us. You have 2 weeks to set up your first appointment. Where are you going? Back to Diane's. I told you, you don't get to come home until I'm ready. I left him sitting there with 2 coffee cups and the wreckage of his own making. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus did everything I asked. He found a therapist and started weekly sessions. He scheduled couples counseling. He wrote an update to his Reddit post that was raw and honest and humbling. Update: I was wrong. Completely wrong. The paternity test came back 99.99% positive, which surprises absolutely no one except my own paranoid brain. My fiancé never cheated. Never lied. Never gave me any real reason to doubt her. I took my childhood trauma and made it her problem, and I nearly destroyed the best thing in my life because of it. To everyone who told me I was being paranoid, you were right. To everyone who encouraged my doubts, please don't. Learn from my mistakes. Trust isn't about having proof. It's about choosing to believe in someone even when fear tells you not to. I'm working on becoming the man she deserves. I don't know if she'll take me back. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to earn that chance. The post got 8,000 upvotes and hundreds of comments. Some people called him brave for owning his mistakes. Others said it was too little, too late. I didn't care what strangers thought anymore. He found a small furnished apartment 10 minutes away and moved out without complaint. Started showing up to our couples counseling sessions prepared, engaged, willing to be vulnerable in ways he'd never been before. And slowly, very slowly, I started to soften. Not because he was suffering. Not because he was groveling. But because he was actually changing. Actually doing the work. Our therapist, Dr. Morrison, was careful not to rush us. She focused on communication, on rebuilding trust through small consistent actions, on helping Marcus understand the full impact of what he'd done. In one session, she asked him, What do you think Lauren lost when she found that post? He'd thought for a long time before answering. Her sense of safety. Her certainty about us. Her ability to be vulnerable without fear. Can you give those back to her? No. But I can create new safety. New certainty. Earn new vulnerability. It was the first time I'd believed he really understood. I gave birth in early November, 6 weeks after our original wedding date would have been. Marcus was there, I'd decided that much, at least. Whatever happened between us, he deserved to meet his daughter. They placed her on my chest, and I watched Marcus's face crumble as he looked at her. At her dark hair, her tiny fingers, her perfect miniature features. She looks like you, he whispered. She looks like both of us. He touched her hand carefully, reverently. I'm so sorry, Lauren. For ever doubting. For making you prove something that should have been obvious. I'm so sorry. I was too exhausted and overwhelmed to respond. Just held our daughter and let him cry beside us. We named her Sophie. No middle name yet, we couldn't agree, and I refused to rush something that permanent just to avoid conflict. Marcus visited every day. Brought diapers, made food, held Sophie while I showered or slept. He was attentive and helpful and careful not to overstep. He never pressured me about the wedding. Never asked when he could move back in. Just showed up, did the work, and left when I needed space. At our 3-month postpartum checkup, Dr. Morrison asked me how I was feeling about the relationship. Cautiously hopeful, I said. He's been consistent. Present. Honest. Do you trust him? I hesitated. I'm learning to. Again. That's different from yes. I know. She looked at Marcus. How do you feel about that answer? I hate it, he admitted. But I understand it. Trust takes time. Especially when you've destroyed it as completely as I did. What would it take for you to trust him fully again? Dr. Morrison asked me. Time. More time. Proof that this isn't temporary change, but permanent growth. Marcus nodded. Then I'll keep proving it. For as long as it takes. 6 months after Sophie was born, Marcus asked if we could talk. We sat in my apartment, still my apartment, though he'd been spending more time there, helping with night feedings and diaper changes. I want to propose something, he said carefully. My stomach tightened. Okay. I want to renew our engagement. Officially. With a new proposal, a new ring, a new start. Marcus. Let me finish. I know I don't deserve it. I know I broke the first engagement through my own paranoia and stupidity. But I've spent 6 months becoming someone better. Someone worthy of you. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving that this version of me, the one who trusts you, who cherishes you, who sees your worth, is permanent. He pulled out a small box. Not his grandmother's sapphire, that ring felt tainted now, tied to the version of us that had imploded. This was simple. A slim gold band with 3 small diamonds. This isn't a demand, he said. It's a question. A real one. Will you let me try again? Will you marry me, knowing I'm not perfect but I'm committed to being better every single day? I looked at the ring. At him. At Sophie sleeping in her bassinet across the room. I thought about the last 9 months. The pain, the healing, the slow rebuilding of something that had been shattered. I thought about the Marcus who'd posted that Reddit thread, full of doubt and distrust. And I thought about the Marcus in front of me now, who showed up for therapy, who changed diapers at 3 a.m., who looked at our daughter like she'd hung the moon. I need you to understand something, I said finally. If I say yes, it's not because I've forgiven everything. It's because I believe you're capable of being the partner I need. But that belief is fragile. It's earned day by day, moment by moment. I understand. And if you ever make me regret this, you're gone. I know. I won't forget. I took a breath. Then ask me properly. He slid off the couch and knelt in front of me, the ring trembling slightly in his hands. Lauren, will you marry me? Will you let me spend my life proving I'm worthy of your trust, your love, your partnership? Will you let me be the father Sophie deserves and the husband you've always needed? I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, yes. But we're doing this my way. On my timeline. When I'm ready. Whenever you're ready. However you want it. I let him slide the ring on my finger. It fit perfectly. We got married 18 months later, in a small ceremony with just family and close friends. No elaborate venue, no stress, no performance. Just vows. Real ones. Written by us, about the specific promises we were making to each other. Marcus promised to trust me. To communicate. To never let fear poison what we were building. I promised to be patient with his growth. To speak up when I felt disrespected. To never settle for less than I deserved. We meant every word. Our marriage isn't perfect. We still go to therapy. Still have hard conversations. Still work daily on the trust that was broken. But it's honest. It's intentional. It's built on a foundation of hard-earned respect rather than assumed loyalty. And when I look at Marcus now, I don't see the man who doubted me. I see the man who learned from his worst mistake. Who chose growth over ego. Who proved that change is possible when someone truly commits to it. Sometimes people ask how I moved past what he did. How I married someone who'd hurt me so deeply. The truth is, I didn't marry that person. I married the person he became when he faced the consequences of his actions and chose to be better. The revenge wasn't in leaving him, though I could have. It wasn't in making him suffer, though he did. It was in setting the terms. In refusing to shrink myself to accommodate his insecurity. In demanding he rise to meet me rather than pulling me down to meet him. He'd wanted proof of my loyalty. Instead, I gave him a mirror. And what he saw in it finally forced him to change. That's the thing about quiet revenge. It's not about destruction. It's about refusing to be diminished. And sometimes, when someone truly sees what they've lost, what they almost destroyed, that's punishment enough.